Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talents to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday Giver Marketing broadcast brought to you by the Giver Marketing Network. I'm Christine Deane, Team Director at Giver Marketing, and we have with us today Joel Snyder.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here.
I love having you on. You always bring your A game, and you always make us think. Kind of painful this early in the morning sometimes, but you know what? It's always a fun conversation. And so, Joel, I, of course, know you really well after working with you for years, and I know how amazing you are. But, let's tell everybody a little bit more about you. How did you get involved in marketing? What are you up to?
Oh, my goodness. Well, marketing is an ever-evolving process, and it changes, almost on the daily nowadays. But I started early on in the incentive industry, working with large corporations with employee behavior programs and how that affects the bottom line. And so when we look at multiple employees in a group in a corporate setting, when they all work together, it generates a great profit structure, right? And as we can reward people for the work that they do, for adding more profit to the bottom line, it allows a corporation to reinvest in their people, right? And so what I thought was, what we really need to do is to take the best practices of corporate marketing and bring it down to the local and regional level, the 80%, right? 80% of our economy is built on small business owners, local and regional companies, right? And they need to have that same intelligence and that same knowledge. And so what I wanted to do today, and I appreciate you allowing me to have a minute on the platform, is to really just kind of demystify the marketing process, right? And give people some little nuggets that they can take home and say, oh, if I try this lever, maybe it'll help boost our results.
Yeah, I think it's really important too, like you said, demystify marketing. I think a lot of times it's one of those mysteries. It's like, how do they do that? What is that? And then there's so many shiny objects right now, right? So every time you turn around, you're like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? How do I know which shiny object to chase? I mean, so I think it's really difficult, especially for small businesses that may not have access to all the resources, may not have all the people to be able to do that kind of research, right? To kind of break it down into a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, when you talk about going after the latest and greatest, nowadays, if you're following anything in regards to marketing, AI has got a large influence. And so now everyone has created an app, right? And so it's the next shiny object. Let's have an app that does X, right? But we don't really look at the entire multi-layer approach of what marketing really requires, right? Because nothing can live in a silo. One thing is a ripple effect. It affects other parts of our marketing messaging, right? So we need to know what that platform is and what it's designed to do. What's the desired outcome that you have in using it? Do those things even match, right? And then are the right people that you want to talk to on the platform? And then lastly, is that the way they want to hear your message? Right?
That sounded really complicated. I don't know if you can demystify all that for us, Joel, because but
Well,
that's what happens, right? You brought up a great point that made me think about, a lot of times your smaller businesses may not even have a CMO, chief marketing officer. So they're, like you said, they're piecemealing things, right?
Mhm.
So I have this, but what's the impact? What's it do, right? Does it do what I want it to do? How does it work? Does it tie in with anything else, right? So really, like we said, so many shiny objects. So narrowing that down, wow, right?
Yeah, and what happens is we have limited budgets, right? As solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or small business people, even at the larger regional level, there's a budget, even though it's involved, it's still limited, right? And so how do we get the most impact for the dollars that we have available? Right.
I think that's the mystery that most business owners are asking themselves. They're like, okay, I know I'm supposed to run ads. Okay, I know I'm supposed to do this, this, and this for my marketing, right? And they're going, ouch, look at that cost, right? And we're looking at it as an expense when really it should be an investment in your business, right? Because you're supposed to get something out of it.
Right. And every business owner goes into an advertising conversation with, what am I going to get out of it? What can I expect if I give you this money? What can I expect? And I haven't met an advertising person other than myself that has said, you can't expect anything, right? You can expect, but nobody's open to guaranteeing anything, right?
Right.
And
they would love a guarantee, right? Wouldn't you love a guarantee that your ad was absolutely going to bring in X amount of dollars?
Mm-hmm.
Throw more X's on that, right? I mean, that's
right.
what you want, right? But there's no guarantee on anything.
Exactly. And so what we try to do is to take that mystery out by saying, we're going to calculate a return on ad spend number based on a few best practices. So the first best practice is, can we make it predictable? Mm-hmm. If we put $100 in, do we get $100 out? Right. Well, if I can give you $1.50, right, for every dollar you give me, how many dollars are you willing to give me? Right. That's always the question. So let's
just stop right there. Okay. Just right there is a million ways of wisdom. Okay. Because when you think about it, most people go, oh, I need this huge return on investment. Did you make back what you spent and more? Did you get a profit out of it? That was the goal. Right. There. That was the goal.
Right. Just, get something back so you can reinvest it and do more. So if we can find predictability in a marketing campaign, then we can find profitability, right? And that's what we need for scale. So, predictable, profitable, scalable. That's, that takes the mystery right out of it, right? Is we got to have those three elements in order to grow our business. And so that predictability is a series of testing what works for you in your market at this time of year for the audience you're trying to reach. All right.
Okay, you just caught all that, right? That was if, then maybe, that whole list right there. And I think this is why a lot of times business owners are so leery about running ads and who's going to run my ads. Am I going to do it myself? Am I getting the best results that I can? Because they have to take so much into consideration. And the idea that the first time that you run something, it may not get you the best results. You have to tweak it, right? So your ad budget, you need to plan on that. You can't be like, hey, first time out of the gate, we're going to just, shoot for the moon and there we go, right? Yay, right? You got to be realistic with your expectations.
Yeah, and having some industry benchmarks gives you an indication as to whether you're going to be disappointed or inspired by the amount of budget you have available. So I always say, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, right? How many clicks do we need to get to a conversion? And when we run our testing, it tells us that. So that's part of that predictability. And I'll tell my clients right off the bat whether they have enough budget to jump in the water there, right? Whether it's Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever it is. But no matter what you're spending, the foundations have to be laid. So
Right.
there's organic pieces that have to happen. It doesn't cost you any money to do it. But if you don't do it, it will cost you money,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Because it's going to be more expensive for you to convert that lead if your foundational pieces are not well organized at the organic level. Are your pixels in place? Are we collecting data? Do you have a website that converts? Are we taking people to a landing page, or are we taking them to an info page? Are we taking them to a form, right? What is it? What is it? What's our desired outcome? And in order to get there, we got to know where we're going to send people and what we expect them to do when they get there, right? What are they going to see and what do we expect them to do with it, right? So we have to kind of have those basic layers in place, and then we can track that traffic, and then we can make some intelligent decisions.
Absolutely. I had a client come to me recently and say, okay, I'm ready to run ads. I'm like, run to where, send them where, do what? Right. And so he's like, oh, wait a minute. Right. It's like, but I have a
Mhm,
website. Oh no. You just send people the website, they just get lost, right? They don't know what they're
mhm,
looking at. They don't know what they need. They're just going to wander around and then like, thanks and take off. Right. So
mhm.
having a goal, you have to have the whole ads funnel as a continuous process of where they're starting, where they're going, where you want them to end up. It's a funnel. It's not just I put up an ad. They'd
Mhm,
like it to
mhm.
be that simple. Business owners would love for it to be that simple. I'd love for it to be that simple, right? But that's not how this works. Not if you want to actually, get value out of the money you're spending on your ads. You got to have all those basics in place.
And people think that if I send them to a destination, that that's a conversion action.
Oh,
And that one-to-one relationship, right, is I run an ad, somebody buys. Okay. And that can happen.
mm-hmm,
But what we do know is the customer's journey is not a straight line,
mm-hmm,
right? It looks more like a ball of yarn. So as they come and they see your ad, all that does is inspire them to check you out, right? Unless you're running, a 50% off holiday special on something that everybody wants. Okay, that's a different conversation. But the bulk of advertising, we used to say in the old days, was institutional, and that today we call that awareness. So think about a billboard you pass on the freeway. You can't click it. There's another action involved, right, in
mm-hmm.
order for you to move forward. And usually that action is investigation. Get educated. Is this something I need, want, desire? I think it might be something worthwhile, but is it really a good fit, right? So that inspiration level, that awareness level, that's, that's one part of this, what we would call a funnel, right, is the top
Mm-hmm.
section where we're throwing people in the top to get that awareness out there, right? But then that middle of that funnel is what the education, right, is informing them on what it is that you have to offer and how you can help them, right? And then bottom of the funnel, of course, is the transaction, right, the conversion action.
Right. And one of the
So,
things I was just reading an article earlier today about the whole loop marketing, right? We're
mm,
looping them around. They're not just come and buy, like you said, right? It's a loop. We're bringing them in, they're exposed more, they're checking it out again, they're retargeting, right? So it really is, it's not just a straight line like we like to think it is. It really is a loop effect, right?
it is. And when you think about the cost of acquisition of a new customer, then we have to think about it in terms of everything that we spent money on to get them to become a client or a customer for us. And it's an interesting segue that you mentioned the loop effect. I do have one slide that I can show that I brought along just to kind of show how we address that. And when we do that, you have, of course, we do complete campaign performance reports, so our clients are well aware of what's going on. We're completely transparent, so you can see each channel and how they're performing.
Right. That is so important, right? Transparency so that you know what's going on. And that's part of the demystification process, right? Give
Hmm.
them money and then you're supposed to make money, right? But what are they doing with it?
Exactly. Yep. And so if I pull up one channel, which here is a Google ad campaign, you can see that at the top, we have the top level campaign, which is all of their campaigns for cold traffic, meaning they've never expressed interest. We've identified an audience, we've put it in a market, and we've distributed a message. And in this example, this is a 30-day example, so this is not a huge client. This is a very modest client. You can see their spend was $805 in that month on all their Google ads, right? Well, the number of impressions, clicks, and conversions, if you look down below where it says retargeting, this campaign, we only spent just under $300, but look at the number of impressions, clicks, and conversions. So would you rather chase this conversion in the $800 category or this conversion in the $300 category? Right, so for basically less than half the cost, we got almost the same amount of conversions.
Now, when we talk about retargeting, so these are people that are already familiar with the company at this point. They've already seen it. They've already interacted with it on some level. If nothing else, they've at least seen it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and we're talking about retargeting in this context, meaning that they've had some contact with you either on your website or responded to an ad, but we've created an audience, right? An audience that hasn't already made a purchase. So when we invite them back, we often find that cost of acquisition drops by at least 40%. Right. In this case,
reinforces,
it was
right? That whole
more.
idea they're not necessarily ready to buy the first time they see something. And that's why you have that success rate with the retargeting. It's like, oh yeah. And so if anybody's ever been out there and you were looking at like, okay, I'm gonna be a girl right now. You're looking at black high heels, right? Next thing you know, everywhere you go, there's ads for black high heels. Well, yeah, that's I call them stalker ads, but the retargeting ads, right? So that's what we're talking about. So if you recognize that and you're like, oh, well, you can do that with your business too. And what Joel's shown us is the extreme difference in the cost on those retargeting ads, and the chances of conversion on those are so much higher, right? And really, if we just start with the basics here and look at the numbers, when I look at the 800, you're like, for a large business, they'd be 800, what, right? But for a small business, that's a big investment, right? When they pull aside their budget for marketing and for ads, it's like, oh, this is painful, right? And they're pulling it out and they're hoping for the best, right? But part of what you got to keep in mind also, so here's the cost and here's how many conversions. So if you spent 800 and you had 65 conversions, well, what's it take to get that profit on there, right? If you're selling a product that's only worth $1, that wasn't very profitable, right? So you want to make sure whatever you're selling is going to make sense. So when you're spending ad money on it, you're getting that return on investment, right?
Right, and you don't want to ignore the lifetime value of a new customer. So cost of acquisition. So if it's $1 item, but they came in and we can keep them there and we can get them to spend $1,500 this year, right? Then it was worth spending $10 or $100 to get them there. Right.
Absolutely. That's that whole big picture, right? What's your goal? What's your end goal? And sometimes we might run ads because we're trying to build our mailing list. We're trying to find who's interested in what, we're trying to bring them into our ecosphere, right? So that we can then send other things to them. We already showed interest, right? They started with this low price item. Next time we do a retargeting on, maybe we're going to show them something more expensive, right? So there's a whole master plan to this. So it's not just like, hi, I want to run ads. Here's money. Right. We got to dive in a little bit deeper on what your goals are, what your offers are, and what makes sense for your business. So you really, if you don't have somebody that you're talking to about ads, I'm going to say Joel's a great person. Secret.
Thanks.
Don't
Yeah,
keep them too busy, right?
you can take that down. I don't have too many more things to show, but the question now is, okay, so how are we going to build our audience, right? What type of audience are we creating? So when we're reaching out to people, they're going to self-select, right? They're going to put themselves into a category based on how they behaved in response to your marketing messaging, right? So one is, of course, an audience that we can nurture and retarget, right? And we've touched on that. So So that desired outcome is the objective of distributing the marketing message, right? That becomes an objective.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a purchase. Maybe we need to move inventory off the shelf. Maybe we have a special buy and one of our vendors is giving a discount on cases of wine, and we want to make sure that that's going out for us for the holidays, right? So
Mhm.
what's our desired objective and what do we want to create in terms of an audience? Now, I have a moniker I like to say, no cold traffic, dead ends.
Mhm.
So if we got them into our ecosystem, what can we then do with that information, with that person, with that desire, that behavior that allows us to grow? And nurture is one, right? It's where we can continue to offer a value proposition to them, right? And maybe it's this remarketing, retargeting question, which is additional offers, right? We know as consumers or restaurateurs that it takes 4 visits as kind of a minimum for someone to come back to you as a regular customer without an incentive, meaning they don't get a discount or they don't have to bring a friend or buy 2 for 1, whatever it is, right? They're now part of your vision, right? So one of the elements in marketing is to have a clear mission and a clear vision, because your clients, your customers, they want to share that with others. They have a good experience with you, they want to become your ambassadors. And it could be a product ambassador, it could be a service ambassador, it could be a nonprofit, right? Whatever it might be, however they interact with you, they now become your ambassadors. So when we talk about this audience building, where we're really trying to get to and what really grows our business for the least amount of money is the old word of mouth, right? The old ambassadorship. That person goes out and tells other people about you, right?
Absolutely. You want to turn your clients into fans.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And and where that goes is this whole full funnel approach, right? That we talked about. We get them in cold. What can we do with them? Turn them into fans. Now your business is growing. So now we're at predictability, profitability. Now we're talking about scaling, right? Not only can we take some profits and reinvest it in more cold traffic, but now we can talk about the value of a customer. If we can turn them into a fan, how much more valuable is that customer, right? Because now we're not
Absolutely.
talking one person at $1,500 or $2,500 or whatever it turns out to be, depending on what kind of business you have. But now we're talking about that person and their friends, right?
Absolutely. When you think about it, right? Anything that you've used that you've liked, you've mentioned it to other people, right? I
Mm-hmm,
mean, it
mm-hmm.
just makes sense, right? Oh, yeah. What'd you guys do for dinner last night? Oh, I went to the restaurant, blah, blah, right? And you're right there, right? Biggest fan, right? Oh, I always go to here, oh, let's get together. Oh, you're going to love this place, right? So we're always advocating for what we like. I just got my puppy. I think I've given the contact information to the breeder to at least 3 people since Friday, right?
Well, and then you bring up a good point, because now we're talking about something more, which in a business to consumer relationship, this fan is talking about your products or your services, right? But what about networking, Diva? What about someone who becomes a referral source? Not just a fan,
Mhm.
but someone who actually says, I have other people that need your service. And now I'm not just responding to a question, I'm creating a referral, right? Sitting in a
Absolutely.
cocktail party or a holiday party or whatever it is, and somebody goes, geez, I really need to find someone who can put in a new deck in our backyard for the summer months. Do you guys know anybody? Right? Oh, well,
Absolutely.
here's
And
a
that's what it is. We
referral.
look at reviews, we get opinions from friends, right? So all of that. So that is the referral. If you don't have a referral program for your business, that's huge.
And if you're a B2B person, referrals are, a big pillar
Mhm.
for growing your business. Strategic partnerships, people who are more valuable when you're in the room. And like Christine and I today, right?
Mhm.
I'm more valuable that she's here, and hopefully vice versa, that you're getting information that you can take with you from both of us. So there's value in that relationship. See? So now we're talking about networking and things that are on a little higher level that don't really cost a lot of money. Yeah, there's some time involved. And I
Mhm.
generally tell customers, look, you have two major commodities to grow your business: time and money. And people that have a lot of time probably don't have as big a budget, right? And people
Mhm.
that have a big budget probably don't have a lot of time, right? So we have to find a good balance between the two and how to leverage the resources that we have in our business so that we can take advantage of all of these different ways to get our message out so that organically we can grow, we can get more referrals, we can build more fans.
Yep, that's exactly. So loops. Again, look, there's loops everywhere.
So the question becomes really, when you're looking at all of these different layers, what foundationally do we need to have in order uh, to maximize our marketing budgets and our marketing efforts? Because now we're not talking about just budget, we're talking about the whole picture, right? The
Mhm.
marketing effort that goes along with it. So look at the fundamentals and just say, okay, when someone comes to my website, what do they see? Right? And what's the message that they get? Am I solving a problem, or am I just talking about myself? Right?
Mhm.
So those main things. And what's happening now in today's world, just to bring this into context, with the AI search engines, and Google has just released another AI advertising product. But the whole idea of it is that the website becomes the hub of credibility resources. And the AI is looking for a contextual search result, where the traditional search engines looked for a keyword or a phrase that described intent, right? So I might say, best shoe store near me, and I get a list of shoe stores near me, right? But if I was to say, um, hey, Google, I'm looking for a shoe that will allow me to walk 10 miles a day with comfort. Show me some products that are designed for long walking but can be presented at work, right? That would be, it's going to give you a completely different result, right, than best shoe store near me. Okay. It only knows how to answer that question because it's looking for context. And that context comes because your website describes that exact issue, right? So in today's world, the website now has become, again, and if you live long enough, things come back around.
They keep
Right?
looping around. Yep.
Just look at your 70s fashions. I saw bell bottoms in the market the other day.
Just hold on to them. We'll come back in
It'll
again.
come back. Don't worry. Yeah, as long as you can fit, you can wear. So, but now the websites are now becoming the hub again,
Mhm.
but not as an electronic brochure. I don't want to get people
Right.
back in the 1970, but it's not an electronic brochure, but as a contextual reference for delivering a message that brings people back to you.
Right. And that's where that whole, when you hear about AEO and what, right? All that crazy stuff, right? That's where they're saying Google is searching for the exact answer that someone is asked, right? So they're like you said, something you can wear for a 10-mile, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got an article written about that and it's on your blog, right? And the summary, right? You want to have the summary at the top where I can just grab that information, go, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're making it easy for it to use you as that source. Right? And we are going to get spoiled with the AI. I did a search the other day and I was like, oh, it didn't give me what I wanted. I guess I'll have to hit the AI mode. right? I mean, we have gotten
Mm-hmm.
spoiled on that where we can literally ask those kinds of detailed questions and it will research for us. And we're like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, I like this, being able to find the answer that I want, right? So we're really reaching that point where we weren't already spoiled enough. Now we're doubly spoiled, right? So the customer, I think, is really looking for what's easy and what's simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we can have that laid out for them, the more they're going to like it.
And we have gotten not only spoiled as consumers, but it's made us as marketers work a little harder, right? Because we now have to deliver a direct answer in one click or a zero click, right? Because if you think of an AI search result, that's a zero click result.
Mhm.
Um, and and so the question becomes, are you creating a message that people can grab onto without digging too deeply to find that answer? Because you're going to lose them, right? And we talk
Mhm.
about the person on the internet has the attention span of a goldfish or whatever it is, right?
I
So
say it every day. Most people have the attention of a goldfish. I'm one of them.
right. So if we don't get that answer right up front, 2 or 3 attempts and I'm out. Right. I mean,
Exactly. So think about that when you're doing your marketing, right? It's okay to dial into exactly who you are, what you offer. If you have a special niche that you're doing, right? Double down on it, right?
mhm.
Do articles on it, why you're different than everyone else, what you do that's different, because somebody out there is going to be searching exactly for that. And Google's going to go, aha, right? Because if
Mhm.
you're just doing everything generic like everyone else is, well, then you just pop up with everybody else. There's nothing to make you stand out for it to grab your information and bring it forward.
And Christine, as a former educator, when you think about the who, what, when, why, and how conversation in composing a message, it's even more specific today in search to have on your website the who, what, when, why, and how, and why. Right, that big why is there, and in the audience. I always say that when you're hungry, you only have one problem, right? So when you think about what a search intent is, it's to satisfy a hunger. There's only one answer that I'm looking for, and that's more food, right? There's just one answer that I'm looking for as a search result. So we have to consider our marketing messages as a very specific answer. And if we can then connect that to an emotional connection, right now we're getting into the art of the marketing. So we talked mostly, well, gosh, for what, 30 minutes about the science behind the marketing, right? But what about the art of marketing? Do we need to think about imagery and colors and emotions and how it makes me feel? And if we think about the sensory side of it, we can't touch the computer screen and get a sensation off of a product. We can't smell it, right? So we have to lean into the other sensory emotions, right? Fear and uh, you know recognition and praise and a connection, right? And we see it every day on television right now, especially during the giving season, from pets to veterans to other causes that are important to us, to look to spark some emotion and some connection, right? So if we think about it, and can I make it easy? Can I take the friction out of this transaction? Right? You'll see in the giving messaging for only 19 cents a day, right? For less than a cup of coffee, right? All of these things, right? These connections that we make.
Absolutely. The
So,
next thing you know, you're ready to go down and just, can I just get everyone from the kennel? I'll just bring them all home. My neighbors will mind.
right, right. But think about the sensory things that are happening when you go to the ASPCA, right? So you're looking at and you're going, oh my God, I want them all because I feel sorry for that one. I feel bad for that. I love this one. Wow, this one reached out to me. Oh, this is really a nice feeling, right?
Boy,
So
those
you go
emotions
through
are just
these.
going, right?
They're on steroids. And when we look at what are the converting emotions, there's about 15 of them, right?
All right,
Emotional
this is a
connection.
whole area. Are you guys ready? Take some notes right here, right? 15 converting emotions. That might be a thought that business owners haven't even thought of before, right? They're like, what? What are you talking
Yeah.
about converting emotions? All right, lay it on us, Joel.
Well, I mean, first of all, what kind of company are you, right? If you're a service company, what do you provide as a service, and how do your customers feel when they've received that service? And what's fun is and we train our service clients before they go into the home to tell that customer right up front, I'm here to give you a 5-star experience, right? So before I leave today, I'm going to ask you for a review, and I want to make sure that I've touched on everything so that when I leave today, you're going to feel like you've had the best experience possible, right? So what have I done emotionally now with that consumer? Have I made them feel calm, confident, trusting, right? So here's all of those emotions now that are coming into play that get them to say yes. Yeah, come on into my house and let's have a 5-star experience, right? What about, of course, fear and loss, right? Those are easy ones to define. But what about identity with a brand, right? We look at people that will only buy Adidas or will only buy Nike or will only ride Harley Davidson, right? There's people that are committed to a brand because of how it makes them feel, right? Their association with it, right, is important.
That's how we got them to become raving fans, right?
Well, it goes beyond that, right? I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
it's it's beyond that because now they are ambassadors, right? They're uh, have you ever seen a brand as a tattoo?
Oh, yeah. Anybody seen those Harley Davidson tattoos and that? Yep,
Right?
yep.
That's a committed fan right there, right? That's an
It's
ambassador.
beyond fandom. It's a part of their personality, part of their who they identify themselves. I mean, that's a different level of dedication to a brand.
Yeah,
I think everybody should go
exactly.
around with a networking diva logo on their shoulder. Yeah, that's the plan right there. Thanks for
What
giving me
about
goals and
prestige,
aspirations.
right? What about prestige?
Um,
Some people will only drive a Mercedes, right? Some people might only wear a certain kind of watch, right? Or a brand of clothing, right? Or a perfume, right? So there's prestige attached to it. So that association becomes the emotional connection, right? So think about what kind of company you are and how people feel when they interact with you. What about attraction? Is that not an emotion? Uh, have your man smell like the man you want, right? Old Spice, right? So it's an attraction brand, right? It's about bringing you into that warm feeling, that sensation, right? Um, there's and like I said, there's tons of these examples out there where when you think about who you are and how your customer feels when they interact with you, what does that mean to you, who you are? How does that define you? And if you're not sure, ask your customers. One of the things we do in marketing is we do a deep dive marketing assessment where we talk about brand voice and brand identity, but brand perception tends to get left off the table. So, how do people see you? Do you know? You may think you know, but do you really know? In a recent client marketing discovery exercise that we did with their customers, they discovered an entirely unique service they offer that the customers found more valuable than the service they were providing, right? There was an aspect of it.
Wrap your mind around that, right?
Right.
You think you're providing this service and that's why they're coming to you, but it's actually this other service that they come to you for. What?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you actually put emphasis on that and planned a marketing strategy to go along with what they actually were really enjoying.
Hello, right? And now we talk about things like lookalike audiences, affinity groups, right? So when we're putting this whole kind of marketing conversation together, taking the mystery out of it is by knowing what people want, knowing how they want to receive your message, right? Knowing who they are and what actions they take, and knowing how they make their buying decisions, and knowing what connects them to you, right? That takes the mystery out of marketing, right? Yes, there's
Absolutely.
art and science involved, and you're good to have a professional kind of coach you through it if you're not one yourself. But in the Giver Marketing Network, we probably have 60 people that could jump in and solve a problem, right? Or answer a
Absolutely. I know
marketing question, right?
one of Timothy Morgan's favorite topics is, okay, so how do they get to the sales? What's the customer journey look like in order to get them to that final sale, right? And so whatever that's working, that's successful, let's create more of that. So let's look at your process, right? It's a whole journey. And so it's a lot of times we just get so busy as business owners. We want to go, go, go. And we get impatient, right? We don't want to take the time to do all the research. We don't want to take the time to make sure all the systems are in place. We just want to run.
And as a business owner, we want our business owners to focus on what they do best, which is run their business, right? We don't want business owners in the weeds of marketing, because it is a rabbit hole that will consume a lot of your time and resources. So it is good to have an understanding of what levers you can pull, because the last thing I kind of want to dig into, we have a little bit of time. The last thing I want to dig into is how to affect, and I'm going to use a marketing term here, conversion value.
Okay,
right?
you have to break that down for us then.
Right. So conversion value is how much people spend with you when they make that initial transaction. Okay. And then what the lifetime value of a customer is, we talked about that. But the conversion value, how can I get them to buy my most profitable product? So what levers can we pull to take people out of a freemium frame of mind and put them into a high-level experiential value-based transaction? How many customers or clients, Christine, have you run into that says, I'm not the cheapest, I'm the best, right? And they want to charge a premium for their service. Okay. So for them to say, here's a free piece of, whatever it is, a free entry level to our service. That's the teaser. That's the loss leader. They're going to invest in that person to try to bring them up to the top level service. So that thought process, how can we create levers in our marketing messaging that removes the friction from a entry level conversation to a premium level conversation? That's conversion value. So when we talk about how to craft our marketing messages, we know that if we can provide an emotional connection, provide a top level experience, a 5-star experience, then people will buy more from us and become ambassadors and raving fans. But we got to get them to make that entry in the door, right? So when I talk about a service person saying right up front, I'm here to give you a 5-star experience, he's not saying, look, if you let me in and I do a good job repairing your faucet, will you let me do something else? right? He's saying, no, I'm here to give you a 5-star experience. You're going to love me so much that you're going to want me to do more. Okay. So all of these connections are little levers that we pull. So to have all your foundational pieces in place, to have a website that converts, to have search results that are meaningful, to have emotional connections and service value creates a conversion value, not just a conversion, right? So your marketer should be talking to you about how to pull all these pieces together. I always say marketing is not a slice of pie, it's a birthday cake.
With the surprise inside.
Right. With a little wedding person on top, right? Which is the business. So, right. So it's not just an apple pie, it's not just a slice of fruit pie, right? This has got cream and it's got cake and it's got layers and it's got icing and it's got decorations and all of these things, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful wedding cake. So when we think about the value, what is it that would you spend more money on an amazing wedding cake than you would on a slice of apple pie, right? And if that's true, if you connect in that way, then your customers are going to connect with you in that way. So this is why I wanted to bring this up, is that there's science involved, there's data that tells us how to find the right people. But then there's art, which is the imagery and the sensational side and the emotional connection, right? And then there's the value of that relationship, right? And then, of course, how it builds your business is the beautiful end result, the bow on the top of the present, right? I mean, it's really what we're trying to strive for as entrepreneurs or business owners or corporate CEOs. I don't care what level of management you're on, right? It's an important realization that says we have value to give to the market.
Right, and it keeps them coming back, right? The whole idea is it costs less to keep a client than it does to acquire a new client. So you want to keep them coming back. If you've ever had a good experience and you go back there again, that's the goal, right? So if you want to do that with your businesses, keep that business going.
Yeah. And so to kind of bring this full circle, we talked about loop marketing and so on, but what does that audience now of customers give us to further our marketing, right? Because now we talked about retargeting people that didn't buy. We've talked a lot about the experience to get them to embrace us. We've talked about creating fans. But now what does that pool of customers give us to further the marketing to help us grow our business? Not just their involvement in talking about you, but how can you take that audience and duplicate it into a cold audience so that they're more likely to become customers, right? That cold audience is more likely to interact with you when you've taken people who love you and duplicated them, right? And cloned them into a new audience. In the Google ad platform, we need 1,000 customers in order to create a retargeting audience, right? So you want to build that database of people who've purchased or had experiences with you, not because you want to keep them to buy from them, to get them to buy from you in the future. While that's an important action, we want them because we need to replicate that audience for the next wave of cold traffic.
Absolutely.
Right.
I did that with a travel agent, and he's like, I've been running my own ads for years. What did you do? Well, I've never had this kind of response before. And it's exactly the custom audience, the lookalike audiences. I mean, it makes a difference. So, and this is where you're having your marketing expert in your pocket really makes a difference, because, some of the stuff we were talking about, you might be like, oh yeah, I knew that. And other stuff you're like, really? That's a thing, right?
Hmm.
So it's just having somebody on your team that you can consult and say, hey, I was thinking about this. Do you have some ideas, right? It helps to have an expert that's been doing this and that does it all the time, right? Because then you're not having to invest all that time and energy on the learning curve, right? And it can get really expensive.
Yeah, and when you talk about the learning curve, we have even established clients that have been with us for years come in and say, "Hey, I just bought an ad in this publication. Can you send them a piece of artwork?" Right? And my comment is always, "Okay, who's their audience? Are they the people that buy from you? How much is this going to cost us in terms of cost of acquisition of a new customer?" You know, is this the audience we're trying to reach so that we have them as raving fans in the future? Can we duplicate their properties for a new cold audience? Right? There's all these things. So I always say to the clients, look, let me vet it. I'm not saying you can't go out and be impulsive and do things. That's wonderful. Go for it. It shows that you're enthusiastically invested in the growth of your business. But give me a chance to vet it before you write a check.
Right. All too often we get it afterwards. Here, make this work. And you're like, okay, let me see what I can do with this. Right. I had the same issue. Right. And really it's easier if you look at your marketing person or people as part of your team and you make decisions with them instead of like throwing it afterwards, like, hey, here you go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be much more successful and much more productive because then we can put the whole system so it all ties together. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to exclude companies that have marketing teams in place. And there's a couple of different ways that we work with those kinds of clients. But when you have a marketing team in place, you probably have a graphics person, a social media person, maybe an ads person, maybe a analytics type person, whether that's a corporate officer or someone at a higher level of management that's watching the numbers. But nonetheless, you've got this. Maybe you have a community manager who's out doing the rah-rah for you out in the community, right? It's still the same conversation. Nobody can live in a silo. No advertising platform can build your business in a silo. All of these things have to work together. And when we can connect marketing and sales, right, that communication is important. In a lot of corporations, these are very parallel paths and they don't typically cross. But once we've tied marketing intelligence with sales performance and sales performance feeding back intelligence to marketing, when this connection can happen, then we can really exponentially drive growth. And we find this, we had a client, they're, $100 million company, and they got a 6-person marketing department and a 23-person sales department. And guess what sales is saying to marketing? Your leads suck. I'm not converting enough business, right? And what's marketing saying? We're doing a killer job. You guys suck at converting them from leads to customers, right? And this goes on all the time, and it's a very acceptable conversation and something that's extremely typical in a larger, organizations with multiple employees and departments, is they tend to run in silos. And then once we start coming back to the table and we're saying, okay, what's really driving a sale and what's really converting? And we have this conversation, and that can also be a optimized analytical approach, but it can also be part of this art and science conversation of, this guy was great. He was totally invested. He loved us. It was a great brand. And then there's this guy who came in and he only wanted his 30% off coupon and he wasn't going to buy anything else, right? So, those conversations need to happen in order for a company to really grow and to be a long-term concern, right? It's easy to have a 2-year business. It's easy to make some money and then you go, okay, now what happened, right? But if you really want to grow for the long term and exponentially become larger, these things have to they have to be synergistic, right? And we have to utilize them in the best way to compound those benefits on top of each other. And when you do that, your cost per lead goes down, your cost per acquisition goes down, your conversion values go up, your organic kicks in. Now you're growing a business with a lot less resources in terms of that transaction.
And there it is in a nutshell. There you go.
So
We've
hopefully
now
it's as clear as mud, right?
clear as mud. We've demystified marketing to the point where they're all like, maybe we better watch that again. But I think we pulled back some of the layers, right? Where we get lost as business owners, where we get stuck, not understanding why it works the way that it does. But hopefully we've shed some light on it. And if you'd like some more light to be shed on what you're doing in your business, I'm going to say you want to reach out and talk to Joel. Joel, I know we've got your contact information on there somewhere. If we pull it
Bring
up,
that slide back up
your
if you
slide
want.
up. There it is.
Mhm.
Right. So reach out to Joel Snyder with Coax Consulting, right? Deep dive discovery. It's kind of faint right there, but it says freeideasession.com. It's also in the comments. You can click on that link. It'll take you to the website where you can book an appointment with them. So what are you offering them, Joel? Are you going to give them a free consult or what?
Yeah, we'll spend 30 minutes together. We'll do a deep dive discovery on any area of their marketing that they'd like to take a look at, whether it's digital ad performance or messaging, maybe it's audience definitions of building, a mission, a vision statement. I have lots of people that come into Free Idea Session going, okay, I want to talk about my business. And we say, all right, let's talk about it. And they don't have clarity in their marketing message, right? And so just getting some clarity, right? That could mean a lot, right? Because you don't want to spend money, like Christine said, I got a website, let's run an ad. It's kind of like the old saying of, I got a barn, let's put up a show. So we want to make sure that, we're taking a fiduciary responsibility with your grocery money, right? We know marketing dollars come off the bottom line. So as a fiduciary responsibility, I want to make sure that you're getting the best value for those dollars spent.
Absolutely. So if you're having questions and you're thinking, a conversation with Joel, I guarantee you will walk away with new insights that you're like, I never even thought of that before, because that's what he does. So reach out to Joel, get on his calendar at freeideasession.com. Get on his calendar, have that conversation, say, hey, I saw you on the Giver Marketing broadcast. It was awesome. Let's talk, right? Have some fun with them, because I guarantee you're going to walk away with value. So don't miss this opportunity. And then take it down. 3, 2, 1. There it goes. Yeah. All right, folks. So go ahead, reach out to Joel. Joel, you are such a wealth of knowledge. And I love having you on the show because you bring the game, every single time. I'm telling you.
Well, Christine, you make it easy. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And so for those that are not aware, we get together and do this every Tuesday. So 8 on the Pacific Coast, which is 11 on the East Coast. If you're in Texas like I am, that's at 10. So we do this every week. We have a lot of fun. We talk about different marketing topics. If this is something that interests in your marketer, well, don't be a lonelypreneur. Come hang out with us, because on Wednesdays, we have networking for marketers, and we would like to invite you to come hang out with us and come play with us. We have fun. And really, it's much more fun to do it with friends, right? So if you sign up at givermarketing.com/networking, that will register you for our networking event, which is on Wednesdays. Once again, same time as our broadcast, but it's on Wednesdays. So 8 Pacific, 10 Texas, well, and the rest is Central. I guess we can count them too. And then the East Coast, 11 o'clock. But come join us, have some fun. We love to have cutting edge conversations. We love to help each other, lift each other up. Sometimes we can team up on projects. There is just so much fun to be had. So come join us, because we are Giver Marketing Network, and we want to help elevate you. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.